Verdansk, the OG. It's a map that was loved and perhaps hated by many, but its prominence in the history of Warzone is absolutely undeniable. For just over a year and a half, we got to play in this world in some capacity, whether it be in the modern-day Verdansk or the 1984 incarnation. But then when Vanguard's integration came around, we moved away from that city and went out to the Pacific. Now, for better or for worse, it's entirely subjective, but the love of Verdansk and the hope that it would come back is certainly apparent. Regardless of how you feel personally about the idea of Verdansk coming back, it's actually been confirmed to be coming back sometime next year. Well, kind of. Today we're running down the confirmation of the return of Verdansk in Warzone and how we'll likely see it happen and what it means for Warzone as a whole, because it may not be exactly what you're thinking. That said, as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Do you think that we'll see Verdansk return in a full capacity, or do you think it'll be something that some of these theories we discussed in the video actually make a little bit more sense logically and will likely be the outcome? Drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your view on it. But if you enjoy the video or you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And as well, if you're new to the channel, you'd like to stay up to date with all things Warzone, Warzone 2 sometime next year, and Modern Warfare 2 information here in the near future, possibly even sooner than we may expect, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to join us on the road to 500,000 subscribers and to stay up to date with absolutely everything. And finally, check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage who just launched a new line of glasses, but more on them in a bit. For now, let's talk about Verdansk. So today's information comes from Alex Summers, manager of live operations at Activision, who recently did a podcast with Legion Farm over on their Twitch channel. Summers, being on the live ops team, they deal with a lot of things, from events like we've seen in the past with Warzone, to simply pushing playlists live, any and anything that deals with the game in a live playable environment, they've got their hands on. So I guess in as plain a way as it can be presented, here's the clip.
They're related to like Skybox, related to POIs, and we're trying to do more around changing that map, season to season. Verdansk will be coming back, but it will be coming back, sometime next year. I don't want to give too much away, but that map will be coming back on certain platforms sometime next year. And like I said, we have a new Warzone 2.0 experience that will have a new big map.
So for a little bit of context here with that, they were talking about the sort of map design and everything, but they ended up mentioning firstly that Caldera is looking to change season over season. And that's something we've actually already seen kind of previewed. We had the launch with season 1, season 2, we got a new point of interest and a couple of bunkers here scattered about. We ended up seeing the promise of new points of interest here already upcoming within what we've seen so far for season 3. And with the new Snoop Dogg marketing material, the skybox has actually changed there as well. So that actually is likely what was mentioned here at the beginning of that clip that you ended up hearing. But he ended up mentioning that Verdansk is going to be coming back sometime next year to certain platforms. Now, that's the key part. Certain platforms. Realistically speaking, this sounds like it's something that will be coming to Warzone Mobile, and that's what I would imagine is the most logical explanation here for this. Certain or limited amount of platforms. I mean, what we see already with Warzone is Xbox One, Series X, S, PlayStation 4, 5, and PC, but we don't have a mobile component, and with everything already moved on from Verdansk, it seems kind of counterintuitive to go all the way back like that unless it's just fan service. But whenever you take a look at the planned stuff, Warzone Mobile actually kind of already makes sense. I mean, recently we did see that there was a concept art variation for Verdansk with the announcement that Warzone for COD Mobile was being developed. We then later dug a little bit deeper to see that there was a potential map, and we did find that Verdansk has that variation that is already kind of in the game files, if you want to call it that, or already designed for COD Mobile, which combine familiar points of interest from Blackout's map, but also points of interest from Verdansk. Notable locations like Hydro Dam from Blackout, Rivertown from Blackout, portions of Port of Verdansk from Verdansk, Lozov Pass and Arklov military base, as well as Block, and other various subdivisions of police stations, banks, IHOP, and other reused buildings in Verdansk have already been found in this kind of concept art for COD Mobile. Now, if that does actually come true, that would be something that makes up a brand new Warzone map. One that I would imagine is smaller in scale, still plenty of area for a mobile game, but if I were to guess, likely accommodating only 100 players as opposed to the 150 that we're used to, because, well, it's mobile. Currently, the BR in COD Mobile is 100 players as well, so it would logically check out there also. So that's my first and biggest educated guess here with this, that Verdansk is going to be returning, but not in the capacity that we may be expecting it. Instead, it's going to be coming to a different platform for the very first time. Now, there's also the possibility, though, that this could be in relation to the fate of Warzone 1, because as we know, there is a sequel to Warzone coming, a dubbed Warzone 2, that right now looks to be geared towards longevity and next gen. So you're probably tired of me beating the dead horse with this, but it's important to note that this current version of Warzone's experience wasn't meant to happen as it did. It was never actually meant to be here, where we are today. When conceptualized, it's been stated on record by multiple developers, studio heads, and the likes that Warzone was never meant to be a long-standing game that lasted the test of time like it has so far. The idea of integrating multiple games into it was not in the initial design phase, but instead was something that was kind of thrust on the development here of this last second. I mean, if you also look at some of the other stuff that was in the game files for either Modern Warfare 2019 as a whole, or even just Warzone, there was a lot of stuff that was changed, cut, or amended last second. But when a game isn't built for the long-term longevity in mind like that, you get issues like we commonly see now. Lack of features like an FOV slider, weapon balancing, and issues with memory. Each integration for Cold War and Vanguard was objectively a mess, and much more. So when you can build a game independent of any base application as a premium game, because remember, even free-to-play, you're still booting up a partitioned version of the Modern Warfare EXE application file when you play Warzone. When you create something on its own, it significantly increases the ability to keep it fresh and updated instead of pulling resources for a game that is nearly 3 years old without altering the base of that game, and that people paid money for. But anyways, back to the point of Verdansk, we have that rumor of Warzone 2, and it's actually confirmed, but just not named as such to be confirmed, but that's currently rumored for a launch of March of 2023, so 3 years after Warzone came out. But from October to March, that's 5 months of a new game and a Warzone experience that is just in kind of limbo. It's rumored that we won't get any integration of Modern Warfare 2 weapons into Warzone 1, so what would players get in that 5 months of waiting? Possibly, and a huge emphasis on possibly, maybe that's when we could possibly see the return of Verdansk. Caldera hasn't been a huge hit with people. Personally, I like the map for what it is. I enjoy the change of pace, but I'd be a straight up liar if I said that there were not huge issues with the map. I mean, tons of visibility issues, geographic issues, you name it. So in order to kill time and not necessarily continue on with a map that players may not like, I mean, who knows? Maybe they do bring it back for that Warzone 1 experience to kind of round out everything. What I think could lend some cadence to this, if you want to dive deep into this theory, is that it's currently rumored that Warzone 2 could be next-gen and PC only, offering more of a ceiling long-term for development. So if that's the case, with more focus on Warzone 2, maybe to appease players still on Warzone 1, maybe it's possible that could be implemented to give players a little bit more of what they want for those still on the sort of air quote last-gen version of Warzone. However, I'm still leaning more so towards this just being a Warzone Mobile thing, more so than anything else. Now, while I very well could be wrong here at this, the one thing that I definitely take away from it is that I don't think this was a Freudian slip or anything like that. As a manager of live ops, Summers would, at least I would imagine, be privy to long-term plans like this, especially at a managerial level. To see those long-term plans would make sense, so to me, while ambiguous, I don't think that I want to write this off entirely as fiction, that it was a mistake that he said something that it didn't mean. But what also makes this a little bit more curious, though, is that it seems like that VOD of that podcast was since deleted, and now there's only some minute traces of it through Twitch clips. So I don't want to say that he said something that he probably shouldn't, but that might be the case, which lends a bit to either of those theories, perhaps, whatever one you decide to believe in. So that said, I do think that it's interesting that we're already getting confirmation of the next new big map for Warzone 2, and I'm curious to hear more about that, and on that note in and of itself, I don't know if we'll quite see that for quite some time. And honestly, it could be longer than what we've seen in the past, because previously, we've had Warzone overall leaked in November of 2019 because, well, the game was tethered to Modern Warfare's 2019's EXE build, and by that same logic, during Verdansk 84, we also saw that all of Caldera's points of interest leaked in the summer of last year at some point, but while things are commonly data mined far out in advance, we have to consider that Warzone 2's project is going to be a standalone application, most likely with no existing ties to Warzone or Modern Warfare 2019's game application to pull those assets from. So in this case, they quite literally could keep it under wraps until the game launches if there's nothing that it's linked to, which would certainly be interesting and a huge change of pace from maybe what we're used to. Now, right now, that big map is rumored that it'll follow the DMZ world in some capacity, but that's all conjecture at the moment, nothing concrete. I would imagine we also end up seeing some elements of some maybe older Modern Warfare maps as well from that classic trilogy to bring those back as points of interest, just like how we saw with Points of Verdansk being the Warzone sort of classic points of interest. But again, that's not guaranteed. Either way, Warzone's future has some big question marks on it, but it sure sounds interesting, and I am very excited to learn more. That said, that's where we're going to wrap things up. But before we go, a quick reminder, my friends over at Gamer Advantage just recently launched a new line in their collection of blue light glasses. This being a collaboration with a company called Genesee, and this line sees all the frames being incredibly eco-friendly. The line takes plastic water bottles and turns them into frames that you can then wear. The same durability, comfort, and lightweight, though, as any other Gamer Advantage frames. But also, you help to reduce some of that plastic use out there. So mix that in with a great option of lenses you have on offer, and you've got yourself a phenomenal pair of blue light glasses. There's much more detail on their website, and I'm just a guy that wears their glasses. The science, they do a great job of explaining everything on their site, but if you'd like to learn more, check the link in the description below. I will say though, from my first-hand experience, there's not a better company out there on the market when it comes to blue light glasses. I've used their products for well over a year now, and I've definitely noticed a difference in less eye fatigue, better quality sleep, and all that comes along with a decrease in exposure to blue light. So especially as someone who's on their computer 6 to 8 to 10 hours a day, highly recommend them. That said, if you guys are interested, check the link in the description below, but if you'd like to pick anything up, use code Espresso for an additional 10% off. But that said, thank you so much for watching. That's what we're going to call it. So let me know your thoughts down below. How do you think Verdansk will return here within Warzone at some point next year? Warzone Mobile, sort of kind of letting Warzone 1 drift off into the distance with something familiar. Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Warzone 2, and Modern Warfare 2 here in the near future. So if you guys are at all interested, I'd love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.